Donald Trump's wedding to Marla Maples in 1993 was a grand affair at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. The guest list was a who's who of the rich and famous, and among them was none other than Jeffrey Epstein. There he is, in a newly unearthed photo, entering the reception hall.
We know that Trump and Epstein were friends during this period. This is really the first time that it's actually been reported that Trump invited Epstein to his wedding.
The photos were uncovered by CNN. They also discovered this new image from that same year. It's Trump with Epstein at the opening of a restaurant. Trump's children, Eric and Ivanka, are also there. And here's Trump chatting with Epstein at a Victoria's Secret fashion show in 1999. Melania is there. This was after he divorced Marla Maples and before he and Melania got married.
Welcome back to Global Affairs Report. Tonight, we're diving into a controversy that's resurfaced in U.S. political circles. Questions about Melania Trump's early years in the United States and recent scrutiny over photos and immigration questions tied to the Trump family. Public records and reporting show that in 1996, Melania Trump, then Melania Noss, worked as a model in the United States. According to archived news reporting, she was paid for multiple modeling jobs before she had a work visa that legally permitted employment, receiving her H-1B work visa only later that year. Those assignments were documented via ledger records and agency contracts. Tonight, we'll trace why that history, already reported by major news organizations, has re-emerged in Congress and public debate, how it intersects with President Trump's immigration policy record, and what fact-checked images circulating online actually show versus what's misrepresented. So stay with us as we unpack the facts, the political implications, and what this means in a deeply divided political climate. Chapter 1. Melania's modeling past and immigration scrutiny. Tonight, we begin our first deep dive of the evening by exploring the early years of Melania Trump's career, her journey from a fashion model in Europe to life in the United States, and the public scrutiny her immigration path has faced in recent political debates. Melania Trump, born Melania Nabs in 1970 in what was then Yugoslavia, first found success as a fashion model in Europe. She traveled to Milan, Paris, and other fashion capitals, building a portfolio in the highly competitive world of modeling, before eventually moving to the United States to pursue greater opportunities. In 1996, she arrived in New York and began modeling here. Public records show that during her first weeks in the US, she was paid for multiple modeling assignments. 10 jobs totaling more than $20,000 worth of work, at a time when her visa status permitted her to be in the country but did not yet authorize employment. Those details were uncovered through accounting ledgers, contracts, and documents from over 2 decades ago. Originally reported by the Associated Press and corroborated by multiple outlets, Melania later did formal modeling work in the U.S. under an H-1B work visa, and in 2001 she obtained a green card via the EB-1 visa classification, sometimes referred to in public discourse as the Einstein visa, intended for individuals of extraordinary ability in fields like science, arts, and business. Earlier last year, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett brought renewed attention to this immigration history during a House Judiciary Committee hearing. Crockett questioned how a fashion model, whose career did not include hallmark achievements often associated with the EB-1 category, qualified for the visa normally reserved for immigrants with extraordinary success. She argued that the criteria for the visa ain't mathin' here, drawing a clear line between the political rhetoric around immigration enforcement and the real immigration history of the First Lady. That contrast between strict immigration policies championed by her husband's administration and the path that led Melania to permanent U.S. residency and citizenship is part of why this issue continues to resonate. Critics have seized on the optics, suggesting that it highlights a double standard in how immigration rules are applied and discussed. Supporters counter that in her case, all legal procedures were followed, and that interpretations of qualifications for special visas can be subjective. Melania became a U.S. citizen in 2006, a milestone that followed her marriage to Donald Trump and solidified her status not just as a model transitioned into public life, but as a public figure with a deeply intertwined personal and political narrative. But what does all of this mean for the broader political landscape? Why does the immigration history of a First Lady draw such heat in the public square? Let's break it down. First, immigration policy is one of the most charged issues in American politics, touching millions of families and shaping debates in Congress, courts, and the public sphere. Second, Melania's history intersects directly with those debates. Her work contracts before a work visa, the EB-1 classification that later granted her permanent residency, and the optics of that process, while her husband's administration has pursued very strict immigration enforcement measures. From one angle, Republican defenders emphasize that she ultimately received every legal status required and complied with the rules of the time. From another, critics argue that the situation highlights inconsistencies in how immigration laws are debated and applied, especially when public figures are involved. Throughout this discussion, political partisanship has magnified the narrative on both sides, fueling social media debates, opinion columns, and congressional commentary. So here's a question for you, our audience. Should public figures' early personal histories be used in legislative hearings? Comment below with your thoughts. Chapter 2. Photos and viral claims. Real versus misinformation. Now we turn to our second major story of the night, the explosion of viral photos and video clips involving Melania and Donald Trump, and the hard truth about what's real versus what's been manipulated or misrepresented online. Across X, TikTok, Facebook, and Threads, clips and still images purporting to show the Trumps in sensational or surprising moments have circulated with millions of views and shares. But many of these are not what they appear to be, and reputable fact-checkers have repeatedly debunked them. One recent example, documented by AFP Fact Check, involved a widely shared video clip supposedly showing former First Lady Melania Trump reacting angrily beside President Trump at an official public event in December 2025. In the manipulated version, her facial expressions and body movements appeared exaggerated and unnatural. But investigators found the clip was altered. The distortion came from a social media account known for posting inauthentic content, and when compared side by side with the original source footage from a Reuters livestream of the World Cup draw ceremony, the changes became obvious. In the real video, Melania remained composed, and key gestures attributed to Donald Trump in the viral version simply didn't happen. Another false image that circulated online claimed to show Melania Trump alongside adult film actor Stormy Daniels at a formal event, implying a scandalous connection. But that too was debunked. The picture was a composite of two unrelated images, one of Trump's at a 2005 event and another of Daniels at a 2006 awards show. AFP confirmed that the seemingly candid photo was created by digitally merging those separate images. These aren't isolated glitches. They reflect a broader pattern in the digital age, where political content is rapidly repurposed, remixed, and redistributed in ways that distort the original context. Misinformation spreads for many reasons: emotion-driven engagement, partisan spin, deliberate manipulation, and the architecture of social platforms that rewards shareability over accuracy. Sadly, these manipulated photos and videos have real political consequences. Opponents of the Trump family point to them as evidence of questionable behavior or intent, while supporters accuse mainstream news outlets of bias or misrepresentation, even when the outlets themselves have not altered the images in question. Politico reported that former President Trump accused media organizations of photoshopping images of Melania to fuel conspiracy theories, a claim for which there's no credible evidence. Meanwhile, stories that began as harmless speculation can morph into full-blown conspiracy theories, like the long-running body double rumor claiming Melania Trump was replaced by an impersonator at public events. That theory has been repeatedly labeled as unfounded, originating largely from social media conjecture rather than verifiable sources. Academic experts on media literacy say this kind of misinformation thrives because it plays into existing political divisions. When people already hold strong feelings about a public figure, whether positive or negative, they're more likely to accept sensational content without verifying its authenticity. Algorithms on major platforms often amplify the most engaging posts, not the most accurate ones, creating echo chambers where false information can flourish. This dynamic creates a feedback loop. Provocative images spread, political factions interpret them differently, and the controversy grows, not because of the facts, but because of how the content is framed and disseminated. That's why tools such as fact-checking services, reverse image searches, and verified news sources are critical, especially in an era where a manipulated image can influence millions of viewers in minutes. Before we move on, we want to hear from you. Have you seen manipulated political media online? Vote in our poll. How often do you fact-check before sharing? Let us know in the comments or in the poll on screen. Chapter 3. Quick rundown of other stories. Before we move on to today's next major segment, let's bring you up to speed with the latest political headlines and developments from around the US and beyond, in concise, bullet-style updates you won't want to miss. White House and federal policy updates. President Donald J. Trump and his administration have been busy with a range of actions this week. First, in a highly unusual move, the president used his veto power for the first time in his second term, blocking 2 bipartisan bills that would have eased construction of a water pipeline in Colorado and granted additional land protections to the Miccosukee tribe in the Florida Everglades. Critics said the vetoes linked to immigration policy disagreements reflect growing tensions in Congress. Meanwhile, the White House has outlined executive priorities, including strengthening border security, lowering living costs for Americans, and boosting U.S. energy infrastructure, as highlighted in recent official press releases. And in domestic spending news, the administration has frozen billions in federal funds for transit and green energy projects in several Democratic-led states during an ongoing federal shutdown. Critics argue this will delay critical infrastructure efforts and could hurt workers and local economies. Policy and legislative headlines. On the legislative front, the White House continues rolling out policy decisions with nationwide impact. For example, there are ongoing discussions inside the administration about updating national frameworks for artificial intelligence, aiming to streamline regulations and spur tech sector growth while balancing security and innovation concerns. At the same time, tension persists between federal and state authorities over power grid regulation, with proposed federal plans to oversee how AI data centers connect to the U.S. energy grid, drawing both support and legal pushback from state regulators. Fact-checked image and misinformation updates. Across the global news landscape, fact-checkers are staying busy. Reuters Fact-Check has flagged numerous misleading posts, from falsely labeled migration videos to AI-generated content misattributed to real public figures or events. And PolitiFact continues to update its Truthometer database, rating competing claims from public officials and media personalities for accuracy, a key tool in holding political narratives accountable. Secondary political news, national and international. Beyond U.S. domestic politics, 2025 has been a year of significant political change globally. According to historical overviews, several countries have seen leadership changes, including coups in parts of Africa and the ongoing war in Ukraine entering its 4th year, underscoring mounting geopolitical uncertainty. At home, some states are feeling the effects of broader federal policy shifts. For example, Michigan reported a sharp drop in climate and clean energy investment funding this year, as federal priorities shifted away from grants supporting solar and other green initiatives. And state leaders, including Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, have responded by signing a wave of bipartisan bills focused on safety, education, and business regulation to counterbalance federal budget cuts. That's your quick rundown of other important stories shaping the political scene across policy, fact-checking, infrastructure funding, and global developments. Stay tuned as we move into our next deep analysis of how imagery and misinformation continue to influence public perception and political discourse. Chapter 4. Political Commentary and Analysis. Now we move into our Political Commentary and Analysis segment, where we not only report events but help you understand what they mean in the bigger picture. Op-ed Expert Perspective. The debate over Melania Trump's immigration history is about more than documents and visas. It reflects broader cultural politics in the United States. Immigration has been one of the most polarizing issues in modern American discourse. Under President Donald Trump, both legal and illegal immigration policy became defining aspects of his political identity, often framing immigrants as threats or challenges. This is significant for several reasons. First, it calls into sharp focus how the personal lives of political figures, especially the first family, are scrutinized and interpreted through the lens of public policy. Melania's path to U.S. citizenship, including the EB-1 Extraordinary Ability Visa, was legal and documented. Yet this same path stands in contrast with her husband's public rhetoric about limiting immigration and reforming legal pathways. Political commentators have pointed out that this contrast raises questions about consistency and narrative framing in immigration politics, a point that Representative Jasmine Crockett emphasized in congressional hearings. At its core, this debate taps into the larger narrative of American identity and what it means to be an immigrant in America. Over the past decade, and especially during Trump's campaigns and presidency, public discourse about immigration has grown increasingly frame-driven. Words like invasion and illegal have been used extensively by political leaders to stir strong emotional responses. Critics argue this language fuels xenophobia and misunderstanding about immigration data and immigrant communities. From a political brand perspective, the Trump name carries deeply polarized connotations. On one side, supporters see firmness on immigration and border policy as essential to national security and sovereignty. On the other hand, opponents see a pattern of rhetoric and policy that they argue deepens social division and marginalizes minority communities. The debate over Melania's visa history has been seized by both sides. Critics argue it exposes a perceived double standard, while supporters emphasize that legal status was earned and should not be judged through partisan lenses. Beyond the politics of immigration, there's also the celebrity factor. Melania, like all first ladies who have previously worked in entertainment or public life, inevitably becomes a symbol, sometimes more symbolic than substantive. The American public tends to project expectations onto figures like the First Lady. Should she advocate for humanitarian causes? Should she represent American values in a traditional role? Or should she be free from political judgment entirely? A 2017 academic analysis of media portrayals found that the public and press often frame first ladies through cultural expectations about femininity, tradition, and national identity, sometimes overshadowing their own agency. These cultural narratives matter because they influence how voters interpret political behavior. A segment of the electorate may view Melania's visa path as a non-issue, part of a personal story of immigration success. Others may view it as reflective of broader contradictions in how immigration policy is shaped, debated, and applied. That's why discussions like this resonate not just in Washington, but in communities across the country. Looking ahead to future elections, the Trump brand, inclusive of both Donald and Melania, remains a lightning rod in American politics. Immigration will almost certainly remain a core talking point, and how narratives around the first family are framed can have real implications at the ballot box. Analysts warn that the images and stories that resonate most strongly are those that connect emotionally with voters, not always those grounded strictly in policies alone. In essence, the Melania debate is a microcosm of larger political and cultural dynamics in the United States. Questions about identity, fairness, consistency, and how the personal and the political intertwine in the era of 24-hour news and social media. Interactive segment. And now, we want to hear from you. Do you think the public should focus more on policy outcomes than personal histories of political figures like the First Lady? Vote in the poll on your screen or share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to tell us why you feel that way. Chapter 5, Feature Story Interview Segment. Welcome back. In this feature segment, we go beyond headlines and deep into the legal nuances of U.S. immigration visas and the political implications when the personal pasts of public figures become tools in broader debates. To understand the legal framework behind Melania Trump's immigration history, we need to start with the types of visas she held and what they really mean under U.S. law. Public records show that Melania Trump first arrived in the United States on a B-1/B-2 visitor visa in August 1996. Those visas are intended for business or tourism, not paid work. Yet documents obtained by the Associated Press indicate she was paid for 10 modeling assignments between September and mid-October of that year, before she was issued a work visa. That period has been a point of contention among legal observers. Later, she obtained an H-1B visa, a type of non-immigrant work visa that allows U.S. employers to temporarily employ foreign workers in specialty occupations. These visas are typically used for fields requiring specialized knowledge and at least a bachelor's degree, and they're subject to annual caps and employer sponsorship requirements. But that was not her final immigration status. In 2001, Melania Trump applied for and was granted an EB-1 employment-based immigrant visa, commonly known as an Einstein visa, a category for individuals with extraordinary ability in fields such as science, arts, business, or athletics. This visa offers a direct path to permanent residency without the lengthy labor certification process required in other categories. While the EB-1 is often associated with world-class researchers and Nobel laureates, U.S. immigration law allows flexibility, meaning that documentation showing sustained achievement in one's field can qualify an applicant. Immigration policy experts note that extraordinary ability can be demonstrated in different ways, and the final determination lies with adjudicating officers at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. To bring these legal nuances to life, we spoke with an immigration law analyst who broke it down this way: expert on clip or quoted visual. An EB-1 visa is one of the most selective categories. It's meant for immigrants whose work has risen to the top of their field. But the law doesn't confine that to one narrow definition. It's up to the applicant to show they meet multiple criteria that reflect exceptional ability. This expert view highlights a key point. The law is technical, and each case is evaluated holistically. That fact often gets lost when immigration is discussed in political terms. That was evident at a House Judiciary Committee hearing in June 2025 when Representative Jasmine Crockett criticized the approval of Melania Trump's EB-1 visa. Crockett questioned whether Melania's modeling career met the criteria for extraordinary ability, suggesting that her achievements weren't commensurate with the high visa standards. Her remarks sparked both praise and criticism online, illustrating how legal immigration categories can quickly become political flashpoints. Public debates like this reflect a deeper phenomenon. When a political figure's past intersects with public policy issues, the result can be both legal scrutiny and cultural storytelling. Immigration policy, by nature, is complex and technical. Yet when tied to well-known personalities, it becomes symbolic. Supporters of the Trump administration argue that Melania's legal journey reflects her individual accomplishments and legal compliance, while critics see it as emblematic of broader inconsistencies in how immigration rules are framed and enforced. These discussions matter because they shape how people think about immigration, not just as policy, but as a narrative about who deserves to belong, who is held to what standards, and whose stories are centered in the national conversation. Immigration law experts also emphasize that public figures are not exempt from scrutiny, but that scrutiny should be grounded in facts and context rather than conjecture. The legal process that led to Melania Trump becoming a U.S. citizen in 2006, first through an H-1B work visa and later via EB-1, is public record and falls within the spectrum of U.S. immigration law. Whether in legal halls or on social media, the way these stories are framed influences public perception, and it's up to news consumers to weigh verified facts against political narratives. Engagement break. Now we want to hear from you. What surprised you most about this immigration history? Was it the pathway through multiple visa categories? The flexibility of the EB-1 extraordinary ability standard? Or how public debates have reshaped the narrative around a First Lady's past? Comment below with your thoughts, and if you learned something new today, share this video to keep the conversation going. Conclusion: as we wrap up tonight's broadcast, let's take a moment to revisit the major takeaways from our deep dive into Melania Trump's modeling and immigration history, and the broader implications of how political narratives are shaped in today's media landscape. Public records show that Melania Trump worked as a model in the United States in 1996, before she had legal work authorization, as documented in accounting ledgers and contracts reviewed by the Associated Press. During that time, she was paid for modeling assignments before her visa technically permitted employment, an element often discussed in political reporting around immigration policy. Her journey from foreign-born model to naturalized U.S. citizen, a process that included work visas, a green card, and eventual citizenship, reflects the complexity of U.S. immigration law. These documented facts serve as a foundation for understanding the debates we've covered tonight. But our discussions tonight also highlighted that distinguishing verified information from misinformation is essential in a time when digital platforms spread content at rapid speed. A 2020 study showed that improving digital media literacy significantly increases a person's ability to discern mainstream news from false headlines, a critical skill as misinformation circulates online. Raising awareness and critical thinking around information helps individuals navigate a fractured news environment, helping citizens make more informed decisions about what they read, see, and share. Experts argue that improving media literacy is a key part of strengthening democratic engagement in the digital age. As we reflect on the stories we covered, from individual immigration histories to the role of media in shaping public opinion, one thing is clear: context, facts, and critical analysis matter now more than ever. Thank you for joining us on Global Affairs Report tonight. We appreciate you tuning in and engaging with some of the most pressing political topics of our time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed. And we want to hear from you. What stood out most to you in tonight's discussion? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and stay engaged.